Good evening and happy Monday. This is Seth Warwick of the Weight Room Chronicles. Today we're conducting our very first podcast, talking through some of our creative instructional capstones that we've taken from the Organ Administration class taken here at APU. I'm sitting here with fellow classmates Abe Berg, Jose Brown, and Travis Charles. And it's called the Weight Room Chronicles because we're sitting here in the weight room. We're all avid athletes working out, exercising, and getting our bodies and temples right for the Lord so we can serve in all capacities. And I think it just kind of is an honest way for us to kind of talk this through and explain our motives. So let's talk about chapter 1 and kind of the things we learned. So, hey guys, let's talk through Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. You know, for you guys, what is the importance of creating a culture that meets employees' social needs, and how do you feel that you actually do that?
First of all, thanks, Seth, for inviting us all in here to do this podcast. It's an amazing opportunity to be here. You know, I can't believe that we have the opportunity to do this anyway. So talking through Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, in class we learned about the sociological needs that our employees would, obviously meet first before thinking about like self-actualization, the desire to become the most that one can be. We talked about the importance in class about employees having to have water, food, shelter, the importance of clothing. These are all things that employees or people in general need on a day-to-day basis. So they would obviously want that.
Thank you, Charles. So I'm just thinking, looking at Maslow's, that manager has to be there to serve and meet the basic needs before he pushes them to their dream needs. So going on to chapter 2, management levels and types. Jose, what's your opinion on the power distance between managers, types, and their employees? What should that relationship kind of look like?
Yeah, that's a good question, Seth. I think it depends on the type of job or the type of leadership that you're in. For example, if you're in the military, the power distance is going to be way higher than it would be if you're working like in a nonprofit missions organization. But I would say for the most part, the lower you can have a power distance between a regular employee and a manager, the better opportunity you have overall for everybody to feel valued, for everybody to feel like they're approachable or they can approach anybody. And realistically, I think that's the best way to create a culture of hardworking people, because they feel like I can talk to anybody I need to rather than I'm limited. So, yeah.
I love how you brought the military into that, because that's kind of my career after this happens, and it's very true. Your ability to go up and speak to a high-ranking officer and tell him, hey, sir, you're wrong, is a lot more difficult to do in the military than it might be, like you said, at an NGO or a nonprofit. So that was a really good point you made there. Moving on to our chapter 3. In chapter 3, we kind of talked about personality types and how do we keep a good balance of different personality types on your team. How can we best suit each person's individual, and how can we drive them to peak in their performance? And what is the value in doing this? So handing over to Abe, Abe, what's kind of your opinion on this?
Yeah, I think understanding personality types in an organization is huge, just because people work together in different ways. And I think just the sole thing to get out of the way is just honesty and just the ability to take feedback and understand people's motives. So within a team, just the ability to be open-minded and to talk to people and understand where they're coming from and how they operate on a day-to-day basis and in different tasks. So just being honest and open to criticism.
Awesome. All right, chapter 4, we're rolling right along here. Organizational commitment. So what are some of the best ways to get people to commit to your organization, your team, and your community? So I'll go ahead and take this one. Looking at your organization, you got to understand the climate of the environment. So how are people showing up to work every day? Is it a fast-paced, high-energy workspace, or are people kind of lackadaisical and taking the easy day out and trying to make cuts where they can take them? And I think you kind of have to address that head on. If it's a personality problem, then you kind of have to address that individual and be like, hey, if you want to be part of this team, we need your absolute best. And in order to give them their absolute best, you have to trust them and give them the responsibilities that they feel that they're being utilized and they're a valued member of the team. Because if I'm sitting here and I believe that, I'm the lower 30% and I'm not reaching my potential, then I'm going to be less inclined to work my butt off day in and day out at work. I'm probably just going to coast the sidelines because I feel that I'm not trusted. So if you want to receive trust and you want your employees to work hard, you also have to return that favor and give that trust so that they can reach their potential and they feel that every day is a challenge where they can grow, not stay stagnant. So moving on to chapter 5, we're looking at motivation, and I think this is a perfect question talking about the Weight Room Chronicles. All of us finishing up workouts today and deciding, you know what, we're going to get after this project late on a Monday night when the rest of our classmates are probably in bed. So we're looking at, what is the biggest killer of motivation for employees, and how do we combat that? So, Charles, what do you got for us?
Personally, my opinion on that killer of motivation for employees would be maybe a manager who has no idea of what motivation employees need to continue their job, to continue to progress in the company. We know from McKellen's needs of theory, we got 3 motivational factors such as achievement, affiliation, and power. Achievement being like goals or tangible things that employees can reach. Say, for instance, if an employment opportunity job had a employee of the year or employee of the month, that's something that's tangible for an employee who is motivated by achievement factors who could actually achieve that, right? And then we have affiliation. Affiliation would be a need for an employee to feel like he's a part of a group project and he's doing well in that project and things of that nature. And then we have power. Power being that's an employee doesn't want to be told what to do by somebody forever and ever. He would want to have the obligation or the duty to go ahead and distribute or delegate a team of people to get a particular task done. So yeah, I think those are my ideas about that. So yeah, I'll give this back to Jose.
No, yeah, I agree with that, Charles. I think a huge killer of motivation is exactly what you said. The idea that the manager or the leader has no idea what their employee needs in the first place. And if they're never going to have that, why would they ever feel motivated? So yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Cruising along here, we're looking at job design and job description. This is chapter 6. And we're looking at what is the best way to help a new employee know what their role is? So how can we not only bring them onto the team and let them know the inner workings of our business, but how do we tell them, hey, this is A, B, and C, and this is what I need from you day in and day out so you can get that paycheck every second Friday. And to be able to convey that in a way that they're motivated and they have desire to accomplish that task or that mission. It's kind of in the way that you explain it and the energy that you bring. So we'll kind of go to Abe on this one and see what he's kind of thinking in those regards. Abe?
Yeah, I think to begin with, you just have to sit down and let the employee understand what the objective of the certain job is, the end outcome, and to also understand that people work in different ways in getting a task done. So creating a certain path, just showing them one path to get the job done, I think would be ineffective. I think just showing them the end result and maybe having an open-end conversation with the employee about how they think would be the best way, and then just open communication back and forth on what the best tactics are to get the task done is ultimately the best way. And if there's any questions, just make sure it's an open conversation where it's a friendly environment where they're not scared to ask any questions and they just know the purpose of their job.
I completely agree. Here we go, chapter 7, guys. Feedback in an organization. So for you guys, what do you think? How do you create a company culture that values giving and receiving feedback? And why is that important to you? We'll go ahead and let Jose take this one.
Yeah, I love this question, especially for our generation, because I feel like so many people in our generation, young leaders or just a regular employee, they feel like anytime somebody gives them feedback, it's always a negative thing. And the reality is you're going to coach more the best players. And the reality is when I give someone feedback or someone gives me feedback or anyone receives feedback, what you want to do in your company or in your organization to let people know that this is a positive thing rather than a negative thing is let them know that you're giving the feedback in the first place because you want them to get better and you care about their success. Because why would you just continue to let somebody do something that's bad? One, when you have an organization to make sure it's thriving. And two, if you care about their personal development and their success as an individual, you have to give them positive and constructive feedback to let them know how to get better in the first place. So I think you really have to, like, one, let people know this is out of love, not hate. And two, you have to let them know it's important because we care about making you better and we care about making this organization better.
Yeah, I kind of like agree with that, Jose. I really like how you brought that to this talk, because I have actually an example of this. I've been to a JC. I played football here, also at APU, and the different style of coaching that I had. At my JC, I had a coach that was kind of rough around the edges, kind of negative in his approach to coaching me, and that didn't really work well, didn't really sit well with myself. But when I came here to APU, I had the pleasure to be coached by Coach Slater, who was an NFL coach, an NFL Hall of Famer type of player, played for the Rams for 20 plus years. And I remember him sitting me down in a room just by myself, me and him, and all he had was the tape playing. And it was a tape of me not doing my job, whatever my responsibility was on a specific play. He didn't say one word to me. He didn't say anything to me until like maybe 7 minutes passed. And those 7 minutes were awkward, man. But then after that, he looked at me and said, "Why did your teammate get slammed here?" And at the time, I played offensive line. And I said, "Oh, I missed my job assignment." He said, "Yeah, why did you miss your job assignment?" He said, "Don't you have your playbook? Don't you have your duties to learn about that process so that wouldn't have happened today here at practice?" And I said, "Yeah, coach, my only excuse is I was tired and I didn't get into my playbook, and that's my fault." And he goes, "Okay, so I'm glad as a young man you realize that because you were too tired to perform your task, to read your playbook, and to come into practice prepared, you could have caused our running back, your brother now, to be done with football because he got slammed pretty bad on that play." And that just really made me realize, and it showed that that's the type of feedback I needed as an athlete, from coach to athlete, and it kind of resonates with the job life with an employee and a manager. So I really appreciate you bringing that point.